Hey everyone, Drew Dinkmar of DailyRoto.com here to walk you through a tutorial of our NBA optimizer for the 2019 season. We have made some improvements that have carried over from other sports into the NBA optimizer. We will highlight those here. So this is the projections page. When you get to the optimizer, the first thing you need to do, as it says in the bottom right hand corner, is select a slate. You can choose from any of these slates from FanDuel, SuperDraft, Yahoo, DraftKings, and so on and so forth. We'll select a slate here. We'll select a DraftKings slate. You can see the DraftKings theme pricing, but we'll go to FanDuel. And FanDuel on the slates, what you'll see is in the top here, you'll see the games, the total, these are the Vegas totals, and then what our team expectations are for each of the teams based on those totals, team historicals, court environment, all sorts of things that go into this. But these are our predictions for rebounds and assists for the teams. These are the totals that are set by the market in terms of Vegas expectations. You'll be able to toggle these if you'd like. There's customizability on any of these, and they will funnel through to the projections. So if you think Miami is more likely to score 115 or 120 points than 111, you'll see Jimmy Butler's projection rise here as I click through and raise the Miami team total. So there's all these abilities to customize at a team level. You can also customize at the player level. The rates that we have available to you are usage rate, rebound rate, assist rate, minutes. Fantasy point per minute is not customizable. That's something that will adjust based on your inputs. The exposure, the maximum exposure level that you'd like of a player. Volatility, the amount of volatility that you'd like to use when optimizing. What volatility does is it simply creates a range of projections that the optimizer will randomly choose a number for. So as a nice round number, as an example, if a player was projecting for 50 points and you had 10% volatility on them, the optimizer would choose something between 45 and 55 as the range for the projection on each lineup that it creates. Then you can see boost if you want to make a percentage boost to the projection. You don't want to change any of the inputs, but you just feel like the projection needs to be a little bit higher. You can simply boost and the projection will move forward. You can see the player's salary based on the site that you're playing on. Our value threshold, which is simply a point expectation relative to salary that we expect the player should be able to get. So in this case, a $10,300 player, we would expect to be to get somewhere around 48.26 points. Anything above that is a positive value. Anything below that is a negative value. You can sort by the values, you can sort by points, and so on and so forth. You also see to the right of the points, percentile outcomes. So these projections are in standard mode, but you can change them to 90th percentile projections, and you'll see the projections go up for players. This was sorted by value, so it pushed DeAndre Bembry up to the top here. But you can see the ability to sort by different profile distributions and percentile outcomes here as you'd like as well. Any of these edits that you make, there's a save button here that you can save on the player level. You can also create your own settings. I have my own settings groups already saved here. So this is just a generic settings, but I have settings for small slates, settings for standard optimals, settings for MME sets, and so on. If you'd like to create a new setting, you just go to new, you name it setting number 4, and you add it, and it will save with whatever those settings are. And then you can just toggle between settings however you'd like if you're making different types of sets of lineups. From there, within these settings, you have global exposures that you can control here, both on the positional level. If you want to change maximum exposures, let's say you want no more than 55% of any one player, you just hit 55, hit all, and that will change all the individual player exposures. You can do the same on Shuffle as well, which is a proprietary feature that we have that just makes it a little bit less likely for a player that appeared in a previous lineup to be generated into the next lineup. This is a way of being able to distribute your players a little bit more and help avoid clumping. So the shuffle goes up to 100, 0 to 100. You can do it positionally, or you can do it at the all level. Volatility, which we talked about before, the ability to set it globally here, or you can set it on a player-by-player basis if there's some players you feel are more volatile than others. A minimum projection, this is every player needs to have at least this many fantasy points to get into my runs, into my submission, and as a result, here I have 15, but you can move that to whatever you'd like. The desired number of lineups, the number of uniques that you're going to use, the minimum number of minutes played in the projection, you can adjust this around as well to make sure that you're not getting players filtered into the projection that project for less than a certain number of minutes. salary range that you control, and then different ways to view. You can move the games around up top or on the sides. You can see just basic stats, or you can see the custom stats, or you can see the outputs of what our actual projections are for each of these individuals. So in this case for DeAndre Bembry, we have 10.7 points, 4.9 rebounds, 5.2 assists, so on and so forth. And again, you have the ability to change from what percentile outcomes you want here as well. We also have these areas where you can leave us ideas and notes. You can view this tutorial along with other tutorials, and then if you get into any issues with your settings, you can clear player bumps, team level bumps, any of the, and by bumps we mean edits, any of those you can clear all of them, or you can just delete the configuration as a whole. Along with those types of settings, you also have team settings where you can choose what number of players, min or max, you want from each team, and then you have the ability to create groups where you can say, let's say for example on this slate, you want to consider Kawhi Leonard or Montrezl Harrell, but you don't want them together. You would simply create this group. You'd say Kawhi and Harrell, and you'd say at most 1. You can also do stuff with key boosts where you can say, okay, I think Lou Williams and Harrell correlate well together, and so I want to make sure that any lineups that use Lou, they give a boost to Montrezl Harrell. And the way that this works is by this little boost feature up here. You can say, okay, how much do I want to boost? I'm going to say, if I'm using Lou Williams in a lineup, I'm going to boost Montrezl Harrell 10%. Now, the way that this works is all these lineups are generated, and so and then we pick from them. So these lineups naturally, if you use a key boost on a player, you will naturally get a little bit more of that player because the lineup that he's in is getting boosted as well, right? Because Lou Williams Harrell lineup is now getting a 10 percentage point boost on Harrell, but it's really a 10 percentage point boost on Harrell that is going to the whole lineup. So by doing the key boost, you will get a little bit more exposure of both Lou Williams and Harrell in these combinations together. So there's the ability to create rules and groups. There's the ability to create key boosts, all within our optimizer. Once you've chosen all your different settings that you want, you simply click Run Optimizer. You'll get this screen that shows you the processing level. You'll see the lineups populate. And then from there, you can manage your exposure. So you can see what exposures I have, who are the players that I have. So I have the most of DeAndre Bembry. If I said, hey, I don't want 73% of DeAndre Bembry, I can just click on the percentage and I can adjust his exposure level to a max of 30%. That will then change when I go back to the projections. I will now see DeAndre Bembry has a maximum exposure cap of 30%. So there's definitely things you can do that. You can go right back to the lineups down here this way. And from there, once you have the lineups, you can download your lineups into a nice CSV that will upload directly onto FanDuel or DraftKings. So there you have it. There's the CSV with all the player IDs. You can simply save this and upload this right to FanDuel because this is the example we did for FanDuel. One other thing that I'll show on the player section is if you wanted to highlight the lineups that were using a specific player. So let's say, okay, I have 3% Gary Harris. I can click on Gary Harris there and it'll show me all my Gary Harris lineups that are using. So quick way to kind of see what the lineups are looking like. You can always adjust rules and rerun the optimizer in whatever groups you have in your settings and whatnot. Whenever you make those edits to the settings, if you want them to carry over later, you just use that save button up in the upper right. But that's it. Pretty easy tutorial, pretty easy optimizer to be able to use to help build lineups quickly and use our projections to power your lineups, hopefully for DFS success.